I am never going to stop being disgusted by lies. I'm never going to stop ever yelling and screaming and pointing out when my system, my political system, my judicial system, my courts, my politics, my cities, when there is lying. Lying right now is a national exercise. It's our team sport, our national sport. Lying is defined in courts as the misrepresentation of fact with the intent to deceive. And there are many, many instances of this. When you look at what is happening regarding Fani Willis, what's happening with the State of the Union, when you have people who come forward, see what's going on, recognize what's going on, and look the other way because of some kind of partisan scrum, when I hear Barbara Streisand, I know nobody cares about Barbara Streisand, but to think about this, that somebody could say this and not be repulsed, not be sickened by what they're actually advocating. When Barbara Streisand looks at a Fani Willis and says, here is just another proud woman whose private life is nobody's business. We're not talking about a private life. When you have Maria Shriver and others stand up and applaud this mendacious criminal regime, when you have this doddering, wizened dotard, this coot, when you have more people celebrate the killing of human life via abortion and the termination of life versus protecting children on the border, and they look at you. But understand, these are the creme de la creme. These aren't just regular people. These aren't just the hoi polloi. These aren't the rank and file. These are considered to be the intellectual and the media elites. This is what we're happening. We have a complete and total subjugation of our criminal justice system. We have a complete and total disrespect and abandonment, I'm telling you, of our Constitution. And yes, I'm holding it up again. This is what we live by. This is the rule. This is it. But there's something that transcends this. There's something about intellectual honesty. There's something about you as an adult recognizing that certain things don't make sense, that certain things can't happen, that you cannot have a system where you do not have a border, where when there is crime and tragedy and death and sexual abuse and the subjugation of children, you can't allow this to happen and lie in saying that it's not happening. This is the thing. You know, I tell my friends this, and I say, I don't think you understand really what the Fani Willis case is. I don't think, it's like sometimes people never really understood what Watergate was. They don't understand the notion of Bill Clinton lying before you, the subject of his impeachment. I don't think people understand what lies mean. I don't think it matters to anybody. I think people just expect it. They don't worry about whether you lie. They merely look at the degree of the lie or the subject matter of the lie. They don't care anymore. You have been so habituated, so conditioned, so made used to regarding what is said that it doesn't mean anything to you anymore. None of it. None of it means anything. None of it even remotely affects you, bothers you. You don't even notice it. You expect people to lie. You expect prosecutors to lie. And let me go back and let me explain yet again why the Fani Willis case is different. I expect Joe Biden to lie about his policies. I expect him to lie about his record. I expect him to lie about his son. I expect him to lie about huge instances of constitutional perdition and subterfuge and and immorality and all of that. That I expect because it's big, and for him to accept otherwise means, let's face it, that wow. I mean, this means that he is forever doomed. If he were actually to admit what he did, he and his family and his brother and he could face decades in prison. So I expect that lie. I expect. What I do not expect, what I do not countenance, what I cannot believe is when somebody comes along and lies about cash payments that were made, about relationships that everybody knew about, things that didn't even matter, lies that were unnecessary, because in our way of thinking, in our world, lying means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It is of no consequence to anyone. It's of no meaning. It's nothing. It doesn't matter. It simply doesn't matter. The lie, mendacity, perjury, it means nothing. And instead of people saying, wait a minute, you can't lie about this, Fanny or Joe or whomever, we say, well, it's the subject matter. I remember one time when Bill Clinton lied about having an affair, people said, well, of course you lie about having an affair. I'll never forget this. Like, what do you mean, of course you lie? What does that mean? Think about what we tell kids. Lies are to be expected. Lies are routine. Lies are ordinary. Lies are, look, what do you want? Come on, it's no big deal. I've heard so much commentary by well-intended people regarding this issue of Fani Willis. And I've heard this. And I've heard people come out of the woodwork in trying their best to analyze it. And I swear to you, they haven't even remotely approximated the actual level of horror that the case represents. And I mean horror. It is beyond anything that I've ever seen, because I've never seen such compounded avalanche lying involving the biggest criminal case maybe in American history. It's that important. The racketeering prosecution of a former president, where there was no racketeering, no RICO violations. I mean, this is enormous. And nobody says anything. They're saying, well, no, do you understand what's happening here? This is being allowed to happen. This is being allowed to happen. We had riots in our country during the George Floyd case, when people like Don Lemon would say, there's not violence. What you're seeing isn't violence. These aren't riots. This is rational, legitimate protest. It's like, what the hell what are you talking about? Dear God, what are you talking about? That's precisely what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. That's what gets me. I watch this State of the Union and I think to myself, I'm in a parallel universe. I'm in a country, I'm in a world that apparently has no values, has no appreciation. Look, people can say all you want. I'm a Democrat, I don't like Trump, and I'm not going to vote for him. Fine. But for you to say that what Biden is saying is great, to applaud not having a border, to applaud a president who, by the way, talks about fentanyl when he's pumped up on Adderall and God knows what kind of a witch's brew of amphetamines. I mean, think about that. When you've got Rachel Maddow, who actually said, this Rhodes Scholar making $30 million a year for appearing once a week, who looks at the world and says, I cut off Biden's speech, Trump's speech, because I know he's going to lie. I know it. I don't want to hear from him. This is a journalist. This is the Rhodes Scholar who talks about all the time misinformation, disinformation, who actually says, shut him down. Shut him down. What? He's a presumptive Republican. I don't want to hear him. And people, yes, you're right. He's going to lie anyway. No need to hear him. We have lost our minds. And I'm going to keep telling the world. And I want them to understand, I don't want them to be immune from lying. I don't want people to look at Fani Willis as another example of some kind of conditioned response like, oh, well, what are you going to do? Politicians will be politicians. No, don't ever say that. Don't say that. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking these videos. Thank you for hitting the bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And please, I ask you now, more importantly, because we need your voice, for you to comment as you see fit.